So now you've made the decision to transform your life, and you were told it's going to take at least a year to get started. A year is going to pass by no matter what. The only difference is what's going to be on the other side, who you're going to become. My experience of working with someone like yourself in that first year is amazing. You learn new identities, you learn new habits, you learn new ways, you have a new mind. That's the internal transformation. And with that part of the transformation, we're getting an opportunity to lay a foundation that rids yourself of the old version of yourself. That's why it takes a year, just to get started. See, what you see on swiping through transformations is that end goal looks amazing. What you don't see is the hard days, the flu, COVID, all of these things that ail people, life happiness, death, job loss, changes. These things are what makes you. It's an identity that's built through fire. It's priming yourself for what's to come. And once you lay that new foundation on all that grit that you're going to lay down, it's easier then to make that next part of the transformation. Because after that first year, you're no longer the person you used to be. And you will look back and realize I've made so much progress internally. And then byproduct is externally, you've now built the muscle. The clothes fit a little bit better. The energy's there. You're not crashing midday. Your food choices are even better as well too. See, when we look at a transformation, we see a year as so challenging. But let me ask you a question. How long did it take you to get out of shape? How much money did it cost you to be overweight? How much money do you spend on medication that keeps you inside of the doctor's office? See, that's more than a year. But because you live with it, you don't see it. But I do. But I also see the best version of you. Because you're watching this and you know right now that everything that I've said is true. You know good and well that if you just locked in for a year, just as if you were going to school for that certification, for that degree, that you can achieve everything you want to, but you're afraid. But why not be afraid of who you may become as opposed to who you're going to leave behind? You can't go back and get that anyway, but you can move forward. And that's why a year is critical to give yourself enough grace to build enough grit on a foundation that's built on trust, accountability, fortitude, repetition, and excitement. Because as we shed those layers of skin, we shed pain, heartache, breakups, letdowns, personal accountability. It's all shedded. And this new beginning is like a rose blossoming through concrete. And you will love the best version of yourself. But just give yourself enough time so that way life doesn't catch up to you. When I had to make the best decision of my life to change the best version, or become the best version rather, I had to put aside some vices that I love. I love cookies. All right? I love cookies. But to be the best physique that I wanted to be for my career in bodybuilding, I had to put that aside. And as painful as that may have been, what was more rewarding was looking at who I wanted to become the next time I got on stage. So in 2024, I set out to completely rid myself of such vices. I also cut out alcohol. I also cut out partying. I also cut out just my circle that wasn't moving me forward. And in the beginning, it felt like it was going to be troubling and trying, but the fact of the matter is, not only did I put on an extra 25 pounds, I ate a ton of more food. I had much better sleep. My body wasn't fighting itself. And those cravings weren't there because I was so occupied and obsessed a bit with who I was becoming that I never cared about what I was missing out from a sugar rush or alcoholic beverage or a night out. Now, I'm not saying you need to rid yourself of the entire parts of things that make you feel better, but if it's important enough to you, then you do it. And what happened for me is I had the best physique that I possibly could have done at that time. I trained completely different. And when it came to getting on stage that year, it was phenomenal. And not one time did I look back and say, man, I wish I would have had those cookies. Because it didn't matter. That year process took a lot of grit. It took me training at a different level. It took me isolating things. My music that I listened to during my training changed. The podcast that I listened to changed. The books that I digested changed. Everything that I did was to make sure the physique that I wanted would show up so that way there'd be no regrets. So just because it may seem like I got it all together, I don't. I've had heartache. I've had suicidal ideation. I've had times where I binged off diets. Just because I'm able to bounce back doesn't mean that I don't go through the same hardships. And it is painful at times. But the reality of it is that every single time I've dedicated myself to what I wanted to become, it was always more rewarding for the results that showed up. And it wasn't even the physical part. That's just what you see and what I see. But internally, I grew as a person. I grew as a coach. I grew as a father. I grew as a coach and a mentor. And I'm saying to you that if you give yourself that runway, if you do exactly what I've done, what I'm asking of you, you will love these outside results. So don't be confined with the idea of that this is going to be a long time. It's going to be painful. Nothing happens without pain. Absolutely nothing. It's cliche, but the comfort zone just keeps you there. Let me say that for one reason. If you take a bull, or a buffalo rather, and a cow, you put them in a storm. One runs toward the storm and the other one runs away. And if you run away from your storm, it's going to catch up to you because you can't outrun it. But the buffalo runs to the eye of the storm because that's where the weakest is. You take it head on, you break through those barriers, you find a new identity about yourself. And within the side of that storm, you build so much that you just look back and realize there's nothing you can't accomplish. So if you can transform your physique to get on stage or to even be the best version of yourself, you can do anything you want to in this world because that's the most selfish and sacrificial moment of your life in that time frame. Locking in a new identity is scary because what's holding us back? If we want to lock in a new identity, which is what we do in my transformation process, the new identity has to then be established. So it takes time to lay that down. When you accomplish something that you set out for, it's going to feel like you're not worth it. It's going to feel like it was luck. Like, oh, that's just happened. I too had a fear of not failure, but a fear of success. So I would go 99% and not 100% because I felt that I was sabotaged and I wasn't meant for it to be that, oh, I can't do that. But once you continue to do it over and over and over, you now create a framework inside of here that says, I am deserving of it. You affirm yourself internally and externally. See, words are powerful, but so are actions, all right? And actions are just evidence. So remember that. If you think that you succeeding and accomplishing a big goal is just random, no. That evidence came from an action. So how much action can you put forth to get enough evidence to verify to yourself that I am worthy of these things? That's the most challenging part. And what's holding you back is that old identity is saying, hey, come back here. You're not ready yet. This isn't you. They want to hold you there. You have to be strong enough that the actions that you've done in front of you have enough evidence to verify that new identity. The more and more you do it, the more silent that noise will be. But the only issue that you have with that is that that old identity is so long. It's 20, 30 years deep. And there's new identities on in a few years. It's still in the incubation stage. But just keep taking action and know that you've earned every single thing in front of you. It's not random. Evidence, clues, success leaves clues. And the more and more you lay it down, the easier it is to become. It's like we say, I've forgotten more in my time than you'll ever learn. So when you've amassed enough experience, it's easy to forget because you're still getting some experience and everybody's like, hey, can you? And then until somebody's like, hey, what about what you went through? Like, what do you mean you were in a jail cell at 6 years old? What do you mean you had a felony at 13? What do you mean that you've been discriminated against and still succeeded? What do you mean that people that you love burned you? When you've been through so many experiences, you push trauma down that you forget about what was being built through that process. I've been there. At 35, I probably have 4 lives already. I have. I've seen courtrooms I should have seen. I've seen stuff in combat I shouldn't have seen. I've seen things in relationships that I shouldn't have seen. But if I frame it that I shouldn't have seen it, why am I blocking out what's built me from today? That's the thing about information. That's the thing about evidence. We fail to realize that our life is a timeline. Our life is our own history, which is why it's his story or her story. Within that, you have to be able to tell your story to yourself too. It's not that you relive in a bad pattern. It's that you remind yourself who you came from and who you used to be. That quiet little girl, little boy that was afraid. What would you tell yourself now? What would the version of today tell that little person then? Would they be proud? Would you let them go? You probably need to let them go. You probably need to let that person go that's so fetal and afraid that you still act that way. You've made it. If you're breathing, you've made it. That in alone is success. And unfortunately, you've trapped yourself into this feeble, weak, fragile mentality that you use your life as a jail cell as opposed to a history lesson. You don't use it as evidence to succeed. You use it as evidence to keep yourself back, which is why you don't make decisions, which is why you don't make the money you want to, which is why you don't have the homes, the physique. All of these things are rooted to what our past looks like. I used to push my trauma down. My trauma's made me. I never would have thought that at 35 years old that I'd be consistently making 6 figures, that I'd be coaching folks around the world, that I would have stepped onto the bodybuilding stage, that I would be in magazines, that I would have sponsors. I would have never thought any of that because I had one person tell me that I was a delinquent. It was a judge at 13. If I let her win, y'all would never see me. I would never see the version of me. And I could never apologize to that version of myself. And that's what life teaches you. You got 2 ways. You can move forward and build upon it, or you can sit back. The thing about the world, though, is so easy, especially if you're in America, that the dream is given to you. It's easy to succeed in this world because everybody else is already sitting back. When the world contracts, you need to expand. While folks on the weekends sitting at home, kicking their feet up, worried about getting ready for Monday, if you put in the work on the weekends and the days off, you expand while they contract. You make progress while they don't. That's the easiest way to get ahead. It's not really challenging. It's just something that most people don't realize. What am I trying to become? What am I willing to sacrifice? And is it worth it? And the answer is always yes. No, it's not. It's not. It's literally like
Information there too is there.
yeah. It's like we're not. Nothing is a lack anymore. Everything literally is in abundance. Our life is in abundance. Success is in abundance. Results are in abundance. Finances are in abundance. You can buy a car with bad credit, which means you can build a body with a bad mind. You then learn to forge yourself through fire to get the new results you want. If you have a mind of scarcity, nothing is possible for you. Absolutely nothing. Because a scarcity mindset just reminds you that you're small. And if you play small, you win small. And win small is not winning. History is only written by the winners, not a loser. No one ever read a book that was written by a loser, right? It doesn't get published because no one cares about losing. We care about what you look at after. People click through social media to see highlight reels. I'm not saying that's the best thing, but if I can see your story, I want to see where you came from. That's more relatable. But you're afraid to let your lessons be leveraged. So they turn to losses and losing. And you've now repeated losing on replay over and over and over. It's like going to the movie and watching yourself fail every single time. Who's paying for that other than you? That's why no one cares about it. That's why no one watches low light reels. They want to see your story. They want to see your story, which is why I wrote my first book, to share my story, which is why I do the things that I do with my clients, to share my story, to learn their story, and then to remind you of who you used to be so that way you no longer go back there. But you got to make the choice. You want to be a prisoner of the moment or a prosperer of the future? Make a decision.
Yeah.
You gotta make a decision. People don't make a decision. It doesn't matter if we're talking about training. Like, people don't make decisions because they have a fear. They haven't executed enough to know that they can do something. So it's easy to say, I'm not gonna do that. It's easy. It's easy to sit idle. It's a challenge to make a decision. But every time you make a decision, you give yourself confidence. If you don't get small victories, you don't win. That's why goal setting, especially in terms of creating results and transformation, you have to set goals that are easy for you to step on first. You can't set a goal that's 6 feet high when you can't walk 1 foot up a step. You're not gonna make it. It's gonna be intimidating, and it's easier to sit back and say, I'm not doing that. Goal setting is super important. So working with someone, having an accountability partner as a coach, helps you reframe your mindset so that way you feel accomplished every single time you check in. You should be excited to check in with your coach. You should be ready to give them all of the rundowns that you've had throughout their week. You should find a way to make a victory. If not, there's nothing to be done. There's no excitement, and you're going to ghost that coach. You're going to ghost your results, and they're going to find yourself searching for another coach again. And the whole time you're doing is blaming that coach and every single coach that you had after. Why am I not succeeding? It's the person in the mirror. My goals aren't strong enough, and they're too high. And I'm not saying don't shoot for the stars and so you can land on the moon, on the star. I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is if you set a goal attainable enough, once you hit that goal, you feel confident, you feel victorious, and then you set another one over and over and over. In my business, I call it habit stacking. And when you stack habits, you have results, you have evidence from action, and you have more of a reason to go forward. But then on the other side of that is rest. Take a rest from the old version of yourself. A bow and arrow, when you pull a bow back, adds tension. And if that bow doesn't get taken off at night and rest so it can regroup, it can't be powerful the following day. But because you don't rest, you don't have enough power each day, and you're burnt out, you're fatigued, you make poor decisions, you eat off plan, you don't make good financial decisions, you don't get the promotion, and you wonder why life is passing you by. Rest is still a part of the process. Rest is vital to achieving a new physique. Rest is vital for getting new finances. If you're so caught up in the day-to-day, you don't see the things you're missing. You have blinders on, and being blind leads you nowhere. That's why sheep need shepherd. That's why people need coaching, because sheep are dumb. We all are, which is why we all have coaches. And if you don't have a coach, you're playing in the field. Yearly, it's about $178 billion, $178 billion spent on obesity. The average person spends about $2,000 on obesity. I think that number's a bit low. So investing in a coach that may run you, I don't know, 3, 4, 5K for 6 months. Would you rather do that, or would you continue paying doctors for obesity? The medication they put you on, the money you spend on food that you shouldn't eat. Which one hurts more? Knowing that you're carrying around sluggish, excess body fat, got to go try and find clothes to fit you so they can be comfortable and loose fitting and guarding what you have inside, or learning from a coach Get rid of those old habits, creating new habits, and walking into a new identity that makes you more money. Because the fact of the matter is, they won't tell you this, but I will, somewhere that work in corporate. People get hired based on how they look. I'm not buying a home from an out of shape real estate agent. Neither will you. If I take one that's out of shape and one that's in shape, I'm going to buy from the person that's in shape. Even if they have less experience, they're put together. So what I'm saying is that it's going to cost you a lot more to not invest in a coach than it would to get that advice, get that coach, and build a new identity and feel confident knowing that you're going to attract what you desire. The fact of the matter is that when we're out of shape, we attract things that are low. We attract things that are poor. We attract things that are low vibrational. And that truth may hurt, but I'm not here to pull punches. I'm here to let you know that investing in a coach is going to pay off much more than it would be to say, let me just try it on my own. Because how long did it take you to get out of shape? How much did it cost you to get out of shape? Let's look at your DoorDash receipts. The average home has a wasteful spending of about $3,000 a month on fast food. $3,000 a month. That's being nice. Let's take in the fact that depression, job loss, which means you're at home more, you're more sedentary, you're going to DoorDash because it's easy. That goes up to about $4,000 to $5,000 in just wasted food. So if you're spending that within a span of 2 or 3 months on food, you got the money for a coach. And I'm sure that those lungs and heart and kidneys and knees and back problems cost more than it does for a coach. That's called a cost versus price analysis. So the cost versus price analysis, people think about it, is that price is a sticker number. Price is a sticker number. Okay, yeah, it's gonna cost you $7,000 for 6 months work with me. Absolutely. What's it gonna cost you? What does it cost me to not pay that? So we look at price versus cost. The reason why you get alarmed at the price of investing with a coach is because you see price and it's a sticker shock. Well, let's talk about what it's costing you when you don't pay that price. Time with kids, time with your spouse, time with yourself, job loss, energy loss, medical bills, adjustments to support you being out of shape and overweight. Those costs. Medication because your insurance is high. That costs. All of these things eclipse that price sticker of maybe $2,000 to $4,000 for a reputable coach for the span of 3 to 6 months. If it costs you $2,000 to $4,000 to spend on a coach for 36 months, or the loss of your family, of a loved one, them paying for your funeral, that's a cost. Hospital bills, that's a cost. Exorbitant amount of insurance, that's a cost. When you look at it that way, the price of a coach is minuscule to what you're already paying by not taking a chance on yourself. So don't be alarmed about it, what that looks like to invest in a coach when you've already shown yourself that you're willing to pay whatever to stay where you are. But why are you not willing to pay whatever to get where you need to be? So if we reframe life assurance or health insurance, so life assurance is working with a coach. Health insurance is what you pay to support your poor lifestyle. So assurance or insurance, which one are we doing? Do I want to assure that I'm here long term? Do I want to assure that I can get the job that I desire, the partner that I desire, the family life that I want to create? Or do I need to insure my poor habits? Do I need to insure my obesity? Do I need to insure my medication? Do I need to insure my burial expenses? So we insure things because we know that we're not going to be reliable, be accountable. Or I can assure myself by getting a coach, a community, a group to know that I'm going to show up, that I'm going to transform, that I'm going to be accountable, that I'm going to push through and persevere when life seems tough. Which one do you want? Assurance or insurance? It's going to cost you either way. But I'd rather assure myself success than assure myself death. It's as a high performer, your mind sees every opportunity to grow. And that's awesome. And as a high performer and a high performer coach, I'm telling you, that's what's stopping you. Paralysis by analysis, decision making. It's not that you can't decide, it's that you want to decide everything. But we need singular focus. The reason why you got successful at where you are is because you focus on one goal at a time. I know it doesn't seem like it, but the reason why you got to where you are as a high performer is because you singularly focus on one thing at a time. You built a habit and then you created a new one over and over and over. And now you've amassed so much success, you see all these opportunities that you're scared to pick one. So it keeps you stuck. Here's what you need to do. All right? One thing. Hammer one thing. Spend 3 months building on one single thing. Create that book. create that podcast, build that office space out, rent out that space, collab with that person, and do it over and over and over again. But just one singular thing. Do not deviate. Because your distraction, that adult ADHD that we're kind of diagnosing now these days, is why you can't succeed. Or more so, is why you don't see the results that you're putting down. You need to hammer one thing, one platform, one focal point, one identity, and lock in on it. Once you do that, you'll build a byproduct of other parts of success. But because you're a high performer, you want to eat it all. If you're like me and done a DISC assessment or a flight assessment, I'm a high D. Most high Ds are just want to go. We are the pilots of the plane. We are mission oriented. But that can also trouble you. So you got to have some reserve, that flight attendant behind you to let you know, ho, slow down, do one thing at a time. High performers are our own biggest enemies because we want to do everything, and you can't. You can't do everything at once.
Why does it feel so right, though, to chase that?
It may feel right to want to do everything because you know that you can get it done. But imagine that if you delegate it, and because you're trying to do everything on your own, you give one project 20%, one project 20%, and you give one the majority of it, all right? Or you can delegate and let somebody else do it at their 80%, which is better than your 20%. The results are gonna be better no matter what. Numbers don't lie. If you can only give 20% effort to one product and someone else can give 80% to it, what's better? So as a high performer, focus on one task. Do not try to be your own cameraman, your own audio man, your own thought process. Be the talent. Prince or Michael Jackson is what I was told. Pick one. As a high performer, you have to maintain and stay in your lane. You need blinders on. And the reason, if you're a firm believer of the faith, the reason why we're told to take his yoke, that's a blinder. You put it on an oxen, they can't see anything other than what's in front of them. And that's what you need to do. As a high performer, do not try to tackle it all or you will fall short every single time. Because your standards are 100% or nothing. And when you see a product not being 100%, that's a sign of failure for you. And it is failure because you should have focused on one thing. The Lord said in Matthew 11, 26 to 28, that come to me, those who are weary, I'll give you rest. Because in rest, you get to reset. And to reset, an arrow only goes forward by being pulled backwards first. If you don't rest, you don't go far at all. Rest is part of the recipe because rest allows you to receive downloads on what you need to do next. So if you're always going forward, you don't get new information. The reason why people have the Daniel fast wrong, they think Daniel fasted because he needed to fix his health. Daniel fasted because he needed to get the download to what to do next. It just so happened to be as long as it was. So the reason why your fast isn't working because you're doing the fast for an external field as opposed to an internal download of information. Rest allows us to receive what we need to do to accomplish. Rest is critical. If you're a competitor, if you don't rest, your physique is going to fade over time. Grind mentality is so played out in a world that's so fast. Grind mentality gets you spurts of happiness, but an abundance of roadway of failure, of woulda, coulda, shoulda. So use rest as a leverage and don't see it as a hardship or a struggle. Rest is why people succeed. Even the most successful people take rest and vacation, which is why it's hard to access them. You can't access a billionaire 7 days a week. They know to rest. Put that phone on D&D, get out of the gym, study your own work, and then put it aside. Let your brain and body reset so that you can receive what your next step is. You gotta think about how, if there's 7 days a week, and I'm working 7 days a week, when am I not working? When am I not working? If I'm always working, when am I not working? And you can't say that, well, I rest when I sleep. No, you don't. Because here's your rest when you sleep. Here's your rest. Scroll, 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 blue light, eyes closed, and you think that means your body is going to sleep. Your circadian rhythm has been distorted. That blue light is telling your body to be awake. The moment you turn that blue light off, it doesn't go into sleep right away. So your rest feels poor, which is why you think, I wake up in the morning, I'm so tired and fatigued because there's no rest. And then you get up in the morning and it's blue light again. Your antennas are your eyes and the sunlight itself. That's your reset. That gives you balance. That makes your cortisol is limited to a certain amount as well. That allows digestion and food absorption and thyroid functionality and hormone balance to be reset. So that's true rest. But you can't get rest if you're working 7 days a week, late in the midnight hour, and you don't shut yourself off from the world. That's why you have poor poor results. And that's why you doom scroll to get a dopamine kick, because you're seeking a feeling because you haven't sat with yourself. Sometimes we got to sit with our chaos and what our mess that we created to analyze where we went wrong at. But it's scary. But take that broken mirror, stand in front of it and say, I don't like these things about myself. I need to fix these. It's not that you're broken, it's that you're just burnt out. And that burnout is going to lead to quitting, starting a new endeavor, because new feels good. It's a new kick. It's like, something new. So you feel hard charged for 7 days and then you burn out again. It's a repetitive cycle because you won't rest.